Hey guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel where we take awesome out of the box. My name is Jamie, and Realme has done a lot to step out of the shadows of being a sub-brand of Oppo, getting a lot of attention with the Realme C1. Now they did miss out a chance of releasing the Realme 2 Pro in the country, and while that was a bit of a disappointment, we're willing to set that aside because of their newly launched device here in the Philippines, the Realme 3. That's right folks, although it debuted in India a few weeks ago before making its way here, we're gonna give you the skinny on whether or not this device that has a starting price of 6,990 pesos is worth spending your hard-earned money on. But before that, let's show you what comes inside the box. Now with that out of the way, let's start things off with a question. Who here is starting to get gradient fatigue? Raise your hands. There are a ton of devices out in the market that want to grab our attention and have ridden the trend of having a gradient design on the back of their devices really hard. While this is present on the Realme 3, we really appreciate the subtlety in its dynamic black color variant. It has a bit of glitter and the bottom slowly shifts from black to purple or blue depending on how the light hits it, but it's more muted than we're used to seeing. If you are in the mood for something a little more eye-catching though, there is the radiant blue version of this device that'll be more suited to your taste. Now the back of the phone is made out of polycarbonate plastic that has a unibody design. It has ample curves to make it easier to hold, but since the display doesn't blend seamlessly into the body, the ergonomics are a little off. This does change when you slap on the included case they provide though. It's also a fingerprint magnet. Now we tend to say that about a lot of devices here on this channel, but we really had to wipe this one down to make sure it was clean for our B-roll sequences. Now let's take you around the phone to show you its button and port layout. You've got the power button on the right, access to the triple slotted SIM tray and the volume rocker on the left. The top is bare, which means you'll find the headphone jack, speaker grill, and the micro USB port on the bottom of the phone. We know, yuck, micro USB port. But again, the device does start at 6,990 pesos, so we aren't going to complain much about it. Before you forget, there's also a capacitive fingerprint scanner on the back of the device, and that's something we really appreciate since some of the other phones in this price bracket have chosen to abandon it in favor of facial recognition, which you all know we're not a huge fan of. It is available on the Realme 3, but stick to the fingerprint scanner, guys. It's a lot safer. Now, let's move on to the front of the phone. To enjoy your content on, you've got a 6.2-inch HD Plus IPS display at a resolution of 720 by 1520. Admittedly, we've been a little spoiled by devices that top up at full HD Plus, so the pixel density of the Realme 3 left us a little wanting. It isn't too bad, we still enjoyed a YouTube break on occasion, but you'll definitely notice the difference if you're used to having a screen with a higher resolution. Aside from that, the panel performs at par with the ones in its caliber, you've got really good viewing angles, and the color reproduction is adequate. Oh, and yes, there is a dewdrop notch that houses the selfie camera that you sadly cannot hide behind black bars. Now the audio department gets a thumbs down for me since it does sound very tinny. It produces a lot of volume, but you're definitely going to want to keep it around 60 to 70% most of the time, or use your earphones if you really need to listen to the content that you're viewing. While the phone that launched in India has the newer Helio P70 processor, the one that we're getting is a familiar SoC that some might consider dated. Because under the hood of the Realme 3 that we're getting in the Philippines is a MediaTek Helio P60 that we first saw on the Oppo F7. It still does put in some work and is definitely enough for your day-to-day needs, but we were really expecting a newer chipset with this release, especially since we missed out on the Snapdragon 660 equipped Realme 2 Pro. So it's really a bit of a disappointment. That being said though, before we all get too disgruntled, it does handle games quite well with stable frame rates for your favorite games available on the Google Play Store. We'll be doing a dedicated gaming review for the Realme 3, but as a teaser, it can easily handle NBA 2K19 with everything on high at an average of 30 frames per second at 83% stability. Compared to other phones in its price range, barring the Redmi Note 7 for obvious reasons, the phone still does score well in benchmark tests. It lags slightly behind the Honor 10 Lite, but scores way above devices like the Zenfone Max M2 and the Huawei Y7 Pro 2019. So we wouldn't really knock on the Realme 3's performance because it does pretty well for itself. The phone runs on Android Pie out of the box with Color OS 6 on top of it. If you're not familiar with this UI overlay, think of it as your typical Android device with hints of iOS. The influence is very evident in the drop-down menus and the fact that you can't hide your numerous apps in an app drawer. Honestly though, it's not too bad and it has been cleaned up with each iteration. Let's get to the part that a lot of you are probably wondering about because of our thumbnail, the cameras. The Realme 3 has a dual rear camera setup that consists of a 13 megapixel main shooter at an aperture of f1.8, along with a 2 megapixel depth sensor with your standard AI scene recognition features. Now of course, you can't expect flagship levels of output from this device, but we feel that the results do bat above the average in relation to its price tag. Our main issue is that the photos can be a tad too saturated for our liking, even without one of the phone's main features turned on. When you do turn on Chroma Boost, colors are supposed to be even more vivid and it's supposed to give you more dynamic range as well. It definitely delivers on the latter, but we recommend learning when and when not to use it because it can be a tad bit much. What we did like about the cameras on the Realme 3 is the Nightscape feature. Now, we're not new to this type of night mode, but it doesn't really appear on phones below 10,000 pesos. It's great for capturing image in low-light scenarios to share with your friends on Facebook, but you will have to hold your phone as steady as you can to make sure that the sharpness doesn't take too much of a hit. Selfies taken with the phone's 13 megapixel front camera are quite nice as well, which really shouldn't be a surprise given Realme's beginnings as Oppo's sub-brand. The hardware provides a significant punch, the cameras get a thumbs up all things considered, but does the phone have lasting power? You have a battery capacity of 4,230 mAh and the battery benchmark test had it clock in at 11 hours and 4 minutes from 80 to 20%. Despite that, and given our time spent with the Realme 3, it got us nearly 2 days worth of juice in between charges. When you do need to top up, you're going to want to make sure that you plug it in for at least 2 hours and 15 minutes, give or take a couple of minutes or so, to get a full charge before you leave the house for the day. Alright, so the big question, is it a solid option worth considering for your next purchase? Before we get to that, let's talk about the price first. There are 3 configurations for the Realme 3 that's going to be available in the Philippines. The base model, which has 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage, is priced at 6,990. The middle child of the Realme 3 with slightly more storage at 64GB will set you back by 7,990, while the top of the line version of this device is just shy of 10,000 pesos at 9,990 pesos. So to answer your question, we definitely think that the Realme 3 is one of the phones you should be considering, especially if you have to adhere to a budget of 10,000 pesos and below. Now, it's true that hardware isn't going to pack the most powerful punch, but the whole package makes it a compelling choice, so it really depends on what you're looking for in a smartphone. Think of the Realme 3 as a jack of all trades in the sub 10K price bracket that offers a ton of value. Now that's pretty much it for this video. If you like it, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the next ones. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll try to get to them as soon as I can. For all the latest tech news and gadget reviews, head to unbox.ph, plus follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. My name is Jamie, peace, God bless, and I'll see you guys next time.